Yeah, hey. Um, Me again. Just having another random squirrel on top of a hill somewhere. Enjoying the lovely sunset being provided for me by rather actually kind of amazing technology when you stop and think about it. I mean, somebody's just written a bunch of ones and zeros and it's moving electricity around inside of a box and somehow or other some other box translates it into pictures that go through my eyeballs and get translated by my brain into a reality that I can make sense of. I mean, when you fucking stop to thinking about it, just regular reality is mind blowing enough. Let alone kind of this whole double reality thing we got going on here. And then you add the fact that you're probably watching this on YouTube, watching a fake me talk about kind of real shit and a fake reality, and it just sort of blows your mind a little bit. But anyway, I kind of had a reason that I started recording this thing, and I woke up today and I read this thing on Facebook, and it was a YouTube link to another video made by another YouTube person, and they were responding to something that a famous TV host type person had said. I'm not going to say any names. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm not trying to fling mud. It's just what got me thinking, And this person is of the impression that all gamers are stupid, immature idiots or something. I don't know exactly what this person said. I didn't investigate it. I didn't care enough to get into it. I don't really care what other people think. I know who I am and whether or not I'm intelligent and blah, 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 blah. But it just kind of led me down a bunch of different thought paths. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to be pissed off and try and argue that, how gamers could be smart and what it was about games smart people could enjoy and anything like that. But I realized maybe that's kind of pointless. But it did get me to thinking about other stuff, like what kind of representation of a demographic of the real world are we getting here in these virtual spaces that people populate? And, a while ago when it was just kind of a young and growing sort of a thing, it might have just been kids and teenagers and young adults and that kind of stuff. And it might have all just been as stupid and immature as that might sound. I mean, there's anything wrong with kids being immature. I mean, they're kids. It's, again, as long as they're not being dicks, who cares, right? But nowadays, like I read a statistic somewhere, and I didn't fact check this. I mean, if you want to go find some statistics somewhere and come up with your own numbers, cool. But the statistic I heard kind of got me thinking, and that was supposedly the average age of the Canadian gamer. I'm Canadian, if anybody cares. And the average age of the Canadian video game player was 37, 38 years old, and that's my age. I got to thinking about it a little bit more. Well, if you go forward or backwards 20 years, or even 30 years, that means there's just as many 50 and 60-year-olds playing this shit as 10-year-olds and 20-year-olds, right? And that means that, theoretically speaking anyway, you'll meet as many of the grown-up, grown-ass adults, I say, online as theoretically you'd meet the immature kids who maybe have at least some kind of excuse for the puerile and small-minded behavior you unfortunately see a lot of in this world. And you know what, maybe I mean the virtual world, maybe I mean the real world, and maybe it's the same in both because they reflect each other. I mean, I meet a lot of people in this world, this virtual world, and whose only seeming goal in life is to make themselves seem more important, or maybe just important in any way, and maybe the only way they know or the only way they've been taught is to just be dicks and to belittle people and to take rather than earn, And if it seems like there's a large proportion of those people that populate these virtual spaces, then maybe there is, maybe there is a large proportion of people online playing various games who you could consider stupid, whether that means ignorant or people who purposely behave, you know, in disrespectful and assholish kind of ways. You know, it could be said you meet that many people that are like that in real life. You know, I mean, how many times have you been doing something and somebody's just been a flat-out dick to you for not much of a reason? How often are people rude to the people serving coffee at the donut shop, you know, just for no real reason other than they were 5 seconds too slow getting this person their goddamn latte grande, right? Like, so, I mean, people should kind of take that with a grain of salt, I guess, when they make blanket statements about any group of society or any people in general, or say, oh, all of these people are idiots, or all these people. Well, you know what? There's a lot of stupid people in Hollywood, you know? There's a lot of stupid people in sports. There's a lot of stupid people in business. There's a lot of stupid people. And maybe they weren't born stupid. I'm not saying they don't have the mental capacity to evolve beyond being, you know, labeled as stupid. And I'm not trying to label anybody, but for the sake of argument, I'm going to make this group of people who fall into this kind of set of categories, and I'm going to name that set of categories stupid. And it's people who just make life more difficult for everybody, for whatever reason. You know, those are what I consider stupid people. You know, I mean, there may be people out there you know, who have the unfortunate kind of lot in life to being born with kind of a lower computational ability in their, you know, kind of meat computer trapped inside their skull. Well, however the hell you want to describe it. I mean, some people can't help their level of cognition. It's just got nothing to do with it, right? They don't. I mean, perfect example, I guess. He's not a real person, but Forrest Gump, you know, was quote unquote stupid, but you know, he was just unintelligent. He wasn't like a bad person. He managed to accomplish quite a lot of imaginary things. But I mean, there have been plenty of people who may not have scored highly in an IQ test who didn't act like assholes, you know? And again, there goes another squirrel, because I can't exactly remember where the hell I was going to go with that. I just wanted to sort of spew a thought that was born by you know, someone kind of mistaking perhaps the more vocal of a group as a representative of an entire group. Because I heard an expression once, and it said something like, stupid people generally have the most to say and the loudest, and therefore they tend to be heard more often than the intelligent people who are sitting quietly in a corner making up their own mind. Something like that. I'm sure I'm screwing up the quote horribly. You know, and I'm not trying to say anybody who has an opinion, anybody who voices that opinion is, you know, stupid because they have a loud voice and they want to be heard. That's not what I'm suggesting. But it's more like the people who bark incessantly are like those angry little dogs, or even any dog that for some reason just doesn't get that, you know, feels threatened by the world or something. It's always constantly barking, trying to be the biggest dog on the block. And half the time, those dogs, people, whatever the hell it is, if you just pay attention to them and kind of listen to them and maybe talk to them and give them enough information to form an intelligent opinion about something, then they'll learn how to do it on their own, and eventually they'll you know, have the ability to form an intelligent opinion about new ideas and be more able to accept other people who have ideas that are different than theirs, because they can kind of use their imagination and their, you know, their intelligence can be learned, you know. I mean, and people use, I guess, IQ tests and stuff, and then, like, I guess the actual brain part of intelligence to try and measure people's ability to think and to solve problems and stuff. And really, it can be kind of equated to just the computational speed of computers and stuff. Like, if you take something that's running on a really, really fast processor and give it a problem to solve, a mathematical problem, and give that same problem to something that's running on a much slower computer chip, has much less computing power. They'll both solve the problem. They'll both get the same answer. But the faster computer might do it in a nanosecond, and the slower computer might take, a half a second. They'll both get to the same thing, and maybe the more crude, the computer that has a little bit simpler programming it or something requires perhaps a little bit more input to get it to run the same level of computational problem. Well, maybe people who kind of struggle with getting their hardware to do what it wants, to do what they want it to, just need a little bit more input, a little bit more information to work on. If you don't have the information to understand what's going on around you, you don't have the information to make an intelligent decision about anything, to perceive anything in any way but the narrow way you've experienced things so far. So, I mean, if anybody else is tempted to take the statements by famous people such as, gamers are stupid, I suggest maybe don't react with anger and screaming and yelling and name-calling and basically acting stupid, because it just doesn't help. Maybe try and be intelligent about it. Maybe enter the gaming world from now on and be a bit more, I don't know, humane to the other human beings you're playing with. Because, really, we're all just playing it because it makes us feel good. It makes us feel empowered. It makes us, we have skills. We're like, hey, man, I'm really good at driving in GTA. I got a world record on one of the tracks the other day or something. I mean, I didn't personally, but, that shit can happen. And it might be something that somebody would never have an opportunity to. Maybe physically they can't drive a race car. They were born without the left arm or something. I guess they can't really play this, but you know what I mean. Like somebody maybe who's paralyzed in a wheelchair, and although now I think they actually do have controls for cars for people who are in wheelchairs that are sophisticated enough that I think there's actually a kid who's paralyzed, at least from the waist down, who drives a race car now. He does drifting. That's fucking awesome. And I'd be curious to know how he kind of wanted to do that, or how he got into it, if he plays video games, of how he feels about that, and so that it can be an excuse to let people experience stuff that they might not otherwise be able to, Again, I got sidetracked by goddamn squirrels, but I mean, I guess people kind of guess the point I'm trying to make. This is acting stupid. It's not going to convince people you're not stupid. Don't be a jackass. We can all have intelligent conversations, and I challenge anybody who wants to accuse video games of being what's wrong with society, to maybe take a step back and take a look at maybe that what's going on in video games is the reflection of society, and take away the consequences of societies we exist in, and what kind of world are we going to be left with? Well, maybe places like Grand Theft Auto is some indication of what an ignorant population left unfettered will do to itself. It'll be Mad Max, right? Just craziness. And if anybody sat down and actually thought about that, instead of thinking, yeah, they're going to be the badass and blah, 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 well, there's always somebody else out there who's a bigger, scarier badass. It doesn't matter who you are. And when you bring the world into that kind of a state, that's all you're going to have is this fucking, looking over your shoulder all the time and worrying about shit. And there really is enough to go around if we share it. It's just, I don't know. So the simple little things, let's get along with each other in something as simple as a virtual world. I mean, you can trash talk people, and I do it with my friends all the time, playing together, and we threaten to do just horrible things to each other's mothers. I mean, guys, what guys are like when they play sports, video games, and race shit together. I mean, but we don't mean it. I mean, good Lord, we're all friends. We're family. We would never lift a finger to harm any of our mothers or our friends' mothers. I mean, God, mothers are sacred, right? And children are sacred. That kind of sanctimonious crap, right? And I mean it too. I mean, I'm just being facetious, but the difference is we're not trying to be hurtful to each other. We're not actually trying to hurt each other's feelings. We're just trying to get people worked up and get them all adrenalized and twitchy so that Sorry, I ran through that 15-minute thing again, but you know, I mean, that's GTA. That's just the way it is, right? Like, it's part of the fun. But you know, it gets me back to what I talked about in my previous video about people just using video games as an opportunity to be assholes. Like, you can shine in a place like this and make yourself known, and you know, YouTube is just a great way to do it. I mean, just look at what's his face there, PewDiePie. I mean, that guy's made millions of dollars doing something he loves, and he's kind of strange. He's not really my thing, but I mean, you got to say one thing about him. At least he's not an asshole. You know, I mean, he doesn't make his money hurting anyone or belittling anyone, and he talks to his fans and communicates with people, and there's a lot of people in the video game world and media and famous people who are doing a lot of good stuff, and a lot of people, rich people, that are actually helping with giving their money to making the world a better place. And it's, you know, I'd like to believe there's more people who give a shit about where this species is going than just me or David Suzuki or Buddha or something. I don't know. Yeah. Blah, 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 blah again. I've kind of ran down off into the desert, staring at the sky again, babbling about fucking random nonsense. So I guess if I can't find the thought train enough to climb back onto it, I should probably wrap this up. So I guess I'll do that. You know, I'll make another one of these whenever the hell my brain fills up and I need to take a mental crap in your direction. You know, and if you feel like listening some more, fucking feel free to share some ideas. I mean, I'll talk about whatever. Like I said before, if you want to jump in and talk with me, make yourself up a character. Like, you know, if you're kind of shy or you want to talk about shit that maybe you find embarrassing or you're not sure about, you know, this is a good place to be kind of anonymous. You know, don't use it, like I said, if you're coming on what stuff I'm doing, don't come on to be a dick. This is about open conversation and sharing ideas, and in an environment that allows people to look however they want. And there's even a voice changing app in Sony, at least in the PlayStation, that you can use to make your voice sound different. I mean, I don't. This is actually the way I sound, so, you know. If I wanted to, I'd probably try and sound like James Earl Jones or like Morgan Freeman or something, you know, because those guys sound badass. But, you know, here I am. This is what I really sound like anyway. And, you know, hopefully someday I do get people to join me. We can get a bunch of us driving around in a car and walking down some virtual road somewhere having deep thoughts about shit. I think it might be kind of cool, you know, and get people who might not be gamers sort of thinking differently about the gaming community and the people that inhabit it in general, and maybe thinking we're not all fucking just doughheads and dopeheads, right? You know, not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, Christ, if people are okay with drinking, I don't understand that anyway. That's a whole other conversation. But I'm going to do like I said, and I'm going to sort of stare off into the sky, think about stuff. Well, you know.